Wilbraham. Broken up by Dean Austin. Well, some seem already to have accepted the inevitable. Have the players also accepted that fate? Wilbraham with a flick on, Mullins with a header clear, and that was a handball by Hopkin, and it was a crazy handball, and yet he got away with it. That could have been so costly. This is Dougie Freedman. And he's gone right the way through! Would you believe it? It's a goal for Dougie Freedman that could mean survival for Crystal Palace. It's a controversial goal because there was a clear handball at the other end from David Hopkin, but you can feel the relief from Stockport to Selhurst Park, and all of a sudden Huddersfield are in big trouble.
To your average UK guy, tanking is a betrayal of the fans of these underperforming clubs. This would potentially be solved by promotion and relegation, but sadly I guess this will never happen because the dollar talks. So, does the word tanking mean anything to a UK sports fan? The answer is no. It's a foreign term to us. So what does it mean? Well, tanking refers to a deliberate attempt by a team to lose games in order to obtain some sort of strategic advantage. In all the major US sports, there is a draft, which is structured such that the worst teams with the worst record get the highest and therefore best players in the draft. So at some point during the season, it's possible that a team decides, well, we're pretty poor, let's start losing games, and therefore we'll get a better player in the draft. This is absolutely unheard of in the UK. And why is that? Well, essentially it's because of the concept of promotion and relegation, which happens in all UK sports, soccer, cricket, rugby, and therefore, by this very nature of promotion and relegation, it makes the term tanking totally redundant. So why isn't there promotion and relegation in the NFL? It's fully accepted in the Premiership. So why not the NFL? Could the introduction of this eliminate tanking? So let's start. What the hell is promotion and relegation? And let's use the UK Premiership as an example. The Premiership is the top division in the UK and some would say European, if not world, soccer. The division below is called the Championship and is full of high-quality teams, many of whom have previously been in the Premiership. There are 20 teams in the Premiership and 24 teams in the Championship. Every year, 3 teams go down from the Championship, go down from the Premiership, so-called relegation, and 3 teams go up from the Championship to the Premiership, which is promotion. Last season, the promoted clubs were Leeds, Burnley, and Sunderland, and the relegated teams were Leicester, Ipswich, and Southampton, all of whom were relegated after a single season in the Premier League, a relatively common occurrence. So how does this work? Well, let's assume the 2 divisions and their fixtures finished today with the current standings. The bottom of the Premiership and the top of the Championship would look like this. The bottom 3 of the Premiership are West Ham, Burnley, and Wolves, and these teams would be automatically relegated to the Championship. The top teams of the Championship would look like this. The top 2 are Coventry and Middlesbrough, and they would get automatic promotion up to the Premiership. Teams 3 to 6 would take part in a playoff, and in this situation, Ipswich would play Wrexham, and Hull would play Millwall, and winners of those 2 so-called semi-finals would end up playing in the Championship playoff final at Wembley. the winner would be added to the automatically promoted teams, and therefore 3 teams would go up and 3 teams would come down. So what, you may think? Well, going in either direction, up or down, has enormous financial implications. Promotion to the Premiership is worth about £200 million over a 3-year period. This consists of revenues from ticket sales, shirt sales, broadcasting rights, and other commercial income. You can see why the playoff final is termed the richest game in football. This is somewhat balanced by promoted teams, the teams coming up, having to invest heavily in wages and transfers in order to compete at the level of the Premiership. There have been examples where the promoted teams have overstretched themselves with disastrous consequences, especially when they're then relegated. Let's take Bolton. They were relegated from the Premiership in 1994, and in 2022 became the first former Premiership team to be actually relegated out of the leagues. There are top 4 leagues, essentially. They ended up in a non-league football tier 5. Relegation from the Premiership has disastrous financial consequences. Revenue is drastically reduced by 50 to 70%. There are huge wage pressures. Teams that come down have high wage bills from the players the time they were in the Premiership. This either leads to a huge financial problem, or you just have to sell these players. There is a parachute payment system to try and offset this, and this consists of around £40 million over a 3-year period, with the amount every year going down. So why not promotion and relegation in the NFL? Well, this would be incredibly difficult, if not impossible. The current structure of the NFL is 8 divisions of 4 teams based on geography and also membership of the NFC and AFC. Promotion and relegation under this structure just is not possible. The NFL is a closed franchise-based league designed to guarantee financial stability to the owners. And we all know that in the NFL, the owners hold all the power. It is difficult to see how the NFL draft, which I described in a previous podcast, could exist under these requirements of promotion and relegation. In addition, there's no second tier in the NFL. There are no teams potentially who could come up outside the current 32. And there's also a revenue sharing scheme so that even the poorly performing teams remain profitable. Okay, so I ignore all that, and we're going to try and devise a promotion and relegation system for the NFL. Let's split the teams into 2, a top division and a lower division based on their regular season results over the last 10 years. This would be what you might call a Premiership NFL division, containing the NFL teams with the best regular season records over the last 10 years. Fortuitously, it's split into 8 teams from the NFC and 8 teams from the AFC. Kansas City Chiefs have the best record over the last 10 years, and the Denver Broncos the worst in these top 16 teams. Now let's look at this season's regular season record for these teams. As you can see, the top 2 teams would be the New England Patriots and the Denver Broncos, while the worst 3 would be, believe it or not, the Kansas City Chiefs, New Orleans Saints, and Tennessee Titans. It would be a 15-game regular season, so there can't be a home and away fixtures as there is at the moment. That would have to be figured out. Okay, let's turn to the 16 teams with the worst regular season record over the last 10 years. We might call this the Championship NFL division. As you can see, Atlanta Falcons would top this division because of their record. The worst 3 teams in the whole of the NFL over the last 10 years are the Cleveland Browns and the 2 New York teams, the Giants and the Jets. In the 25-26 season, the top records go to Seattle and Houston. The worst three teams is shared between the LV Raiders, Arizona Cardinals, and the poor old New York Jets. So if there were promotion and relegation under this made-up system, how would it look? And indeed, how would we figure out the Super Bowl? Well, three teams would be relegated to the lower division, and believe it or not, these would be the Kansas City Chiefs, the New Orleans Saints, and the Tennessee Titans. Wow, that shows just how bad the Kansas City Chiefs were this year. The Seattle Seahawks and Houston Texans would automatically go up as they are the top two teams. Places 3 to 6 would be the Jaguars, Bears, Chargers, and I'm going to say the Falcons. Tampa Bay and Panthers have similar records, but they are worse over a 10-year period. These four teams would undergo playoffs, and then the final with the winner promoted to the top division along with Seattle and the Texans. Okay, how can we figure out a potential mechanism for the Super Bowl? Well, let's base it on the regular season, which has just ended. New England and Denver are the top seeds, as they have the best win-loss records. And they get a bye into this mythical second round of the playoffs. Buffalo Bills, Philadelphia Eagles, LA Rams, and the 49ers are the 3 to 6 seeds, and they would play each other with the winners going on to play New England and Denver, and ultimately the winners of these semi-finals would go on to the Super Bowl. Oh well, that's fantasy land, and I suppose it will never happen, but think of what fun it would be. The bottom 6 or so in the top division would be fighting to the very last game of the season to avoid being in the bottom 3 and therefore relegation. No relevant games and no potential tanking to get, a high player in the draft. The top 6 would go into the postseason, potentially leading to the Super Bowl. Teams would fight to the very end as there would be a clear advantage in being in the top 2 teams. In the lower division, the top 10 or so teams would be fighting to the very end to get in the top 6, and ideally the top 2, because that would lead to automatic promotion into the top division and therefore access to the Super Bowl. It would be exciting to the end of the regular season and beyond. In this mythical situation, the Seattle Seahawks would be the losers compared to reality, especially this year because of the 10-year record Seattle have put them in the lower division, so they couldn't get in the Super Bowl. Of course, in the real world, they've just won the Super Bowl, beating the New England Patriots in the most boring Super Bowl of all time. And I won't even address the halftime music show. So why the big thing about tanking right now? Well, it's the NBA. The 2026 NBA draft is considered special because there are a number of players who are considered elite. To get in the NBA playoffs, you have to be at least in the top 10 of the East and West divisions. As you can see, there are quite a few teams who have no chance of this. Maybe 3 in the East and 5 in the West. Therefore, they are already thinking of tanking in order to be one of the worst teams and therefore get the best players in the draft. The Sacramento Kings have lost 14 games in a row. Wow, they really must want one of these potential number 1 drafts, which is likely to be Peterson from Kansas, Debansa from BYU, and Boozer from Duke. Don't you love that name, Boozer? Great UK word. To your average UK guy, tanking is a betrayal of the fans of these underperforming clubs. This would potentially be solved by promotion and relegation, but sadly I guess this will never happen because the dollar talks. Well, enough of that. That's tanking, promotion and relegation. as usual, support your team with pride and passion. I do hope none of your teams tank. This is a disgrace and a disaster.